Now, one of the most important concepts in perceptual control theory is what's called a reference level.
Okay.
And we already talked about one example of a reference level, which is the thermostat, right?
Right.
Okay, so there's a range of acceptable temperatures. When that range is violated, that's when either the heater kicks on or the air conditioning kicks on.
Got it.
And brings the temperature back into the acceptable level. That's a range, okay? You can also have, there are two other types of reference levels.
Okay.
One is a set point.
All
and
right.
a good example of a set point is think of the current level of your bank account. Okay? There's probably some minimum amount of money to have in there before you start like, whoa, I really need to make some money or I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
There's not necessarily a higher bound, like
Right.
However large that is, then wonderful.
Right.
But, there is a lower bound.
Right,
a
that
set
makes you
point
nervous.
that you want to be above.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
and anything below that, you start to think, it's like, okay, I need to do things to make more money
Yeah.
to get back to this point. Okay? There's also a third, which is called an error. Okay, which is kind of like a set point, but the set point is 0, and that the presence of anything is an error. A good example is think of like a pain receptor on your skin.
Oh, that makes sense.
As long as it's 0, everything's fine. The
Okay.
moment it starts registering
Yeah,
something,
it's
you're
bad.
like, and you start doing things to fix it.
That makes sense. Or
Okay.
like customer complaints or things like that.
Right.
Got it.
Okay? So understanding that there are these 3 basic reference levels helps you figure out what those reference levels are. Okay? And whenever that reference level is violated, that's when people kick into action. Okay? It's only when a reference level is violated that people start to act towards something.
It's interesting. It seems like a discussion about reference levels and the core human needs could be helpful in trying to think about when to market to someone.
Right. So people have needs.
Exactly.
There's a certain, either in terms of acquisition
Right.
or in terms of bonding or relationships or learning or defending.
Right. And when it's not within that range, that's when they're probably most accessible.
Right.
Okay. This makes a little more sense.
And one of the interesting things that you can do when your reference level is violated, there's 2 ways to fix it.
Okay.
One is you can do something to bring that perception back into the reference level, which is like the putting on sunglasses.
Right.
That's an action. The other thing that you can do is reset your reference level. You can make the reference level something different.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say on the money example, you go well below what you are normally comfortable with. You can either do things to make more money, or you can rerun your budget and find that you know what, you're going to be okay anyway, and that resets your reference level
True.
down.
Okay.
And there are some of the things we'll talk about in this section and also the next section are things that help you change your reference level.
Yeah.
Either make sure that something else is acceptable, which once your brain knows that you're going to be okay, then things start to work a little
That
bit
makes
better.
sense.
Or you can actually change the perception. Make more money, or
Absolutely.
do something else, or change your environment such that less money is required.
Yeah, I read something about actually Steve Pavlina when he was trying to get himself to make more money. He started carrying more money around in his wallet, so which I guess is a way of setting his reference level
Exactly.
higher.
That's a great example.
Okay, so basically he was just used to having more money, so he needed to start making enough to make that a normal thing.
Right. And you can also think of things like goal setting as you're setting a reference level.
Right, and then you have to work
Exactly.
until it's within there.
Yeah, because
Okay.
because if everything's good, like let's say you have enough money, your reference level is, you're well within your reference level of what is an acceptable amount of money to have.
Okay,
How hard are you going to work
right.
to get more money? Well, you're probably not, because everything is already good, and so what perceptual control theory would say is that you're not going to do anything to change a perception that's already within its reference level.
Right, so I guess you could set goals for yourself in other things.
If it's acceptable.
If it's
or
acceptable.
if you want to continue to grow the amount of money that you're earning,
Right.
set a goal, reset your reference level
Right.
to be something higher than what you're at right now.
Okay, makes sense.
And by doing that, you start to kick yourself into action about, what can I do if this is what I'm going for now what can I do to get there?
Cool.
And so we'll talk about all sorts of planning techniques that you can use to actually figure that out.
Cool.
But this is the theory behind why things like goal setting works. You're resetting your reference level.
Okay.
And now that you're out of control, it's kind of a controlled out of control.
Right.
You're setting yourself out of control, and then you're working to try to get to the point where it's back into control.
Makes sense.
Right. That is reference level.